Welcome to my dad's car. Enjoy!
Welcome to My Dad's Car, a podcast discussing our personal relationship with automotive nostalgia. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be about your dad's car. It can be your mum's, your grand's, your parents', guardians, or even a neighbour's. If it made an impression, let's talk about it. That hopefully should synchronise everything together. This is the first one we've done like this, John.
Yeah, popping on cherry.
We're here with Danny James, who's a friend of mine. For the benefit of the tape, we like to do, met you through Porsches.
For the benefit of the tape, sounds like really cool. For the benefit of the audience and the jury, we are friends.
Yeah.
We've known each other.
I seem to recall as a child, they used to say that in the bill.
Yeah,
For
they
the benefit of the
in
tape.
the interview, yeah. In
Present
a
Reg
interview,
Hollis.
Yeah. present Danny James.
We'll do a little Instagram reel with our feet walking up the drive in a minute.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we met through Porsches. Turns out we probably kind of bumped into each other in Volkswagens before that. Yeah, you messed around kind of during the old Max Power days, didn't you, with BMWs?
Yeah, I started as a VW, went down the whole Max Power line, then the BMW theme, only because they had more money to spend. That's why I did the BMW. The Volkswagen guys, you know what they're like, they fix it all themselves, don't they? Do it for nothing. So yeah, and then it evolved into Porsches, you know, as it does. The BMW thing for some reason.
So yeah, here we are in person with our podcasting machine just down there. I'm not going to move it just in case everything breaks. Some microphones.
Yeah.
The most expensive table we've ever used.
Yeah. This is a bespoke made Porsche stroke Matchbox. That's my whole life in that table.
You're not allowed to put drinks on.
You're not allowed to put drinks. Yeah, it's a bit precious.
Only water only.
So yeah, in your spare time, we won't get too carried away, but you do a bit of toy dealing, sell some cars.
Yeah, buy and sell real cars and toys, Matchbox vintage toys from the 70s and 80s. 90s now as well is coming on strong. Even noughties, believe it or not. Like naughty stuff that's only 20 years old now. It's just starting to become on the eyesight of collectors because it's more affordable, I suppose.
Yeah. Okie dokie. We will then. Let's just try this. Let's kick this off. Danny, what's your earliest car memory?
My earliest car memory of my own car.
You growing up.
My earliest car memory is in the back of Dad's Capri, probably. Yeah, 2 litre Mark II. Ironically, in like a purple colour, which is a colour I ended up spraying a golf in. And it had gold wheels. How rad's that? I've got this gold wheel obsession. Dad's Capri had gold wheels at some point. And I sort of just remember, I was young, I'm talking 4, 5.
Okay.
But I remember those trips down to Devon when it took a day to get to Devon. And I've looked in the back of a Capri now, and there's not a lot of room. But I can tell you there was 4 of us in there with blankets, pillows. My friend, me, my sister, and her friend. And there's only 2 little pods.
So 4 of you in the back.
Yeah. And if you think of a Capri now, if you look at it as a grown man, we wouldn't fit. They're only them little pod seats, smaller than a 911 in the back there. But yeah, 4 up, all the way to Devon, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, get the blanket, Simply Red Stars album in the cassette, and driving down to Devon.
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the earliest car I remember.
Awesome. And was that was Dad's daily driver?
No. Dad's daily driver was another Ford. Was a Ford Transit van.
Okay.
He was a gas man.
Yeah.
So he drove a Ford Transit every day. A big one, high top, long wheelbase, compressor on the back.
Yeah.
Big blue and white thing with British Gas up the side of it. So that was his daily driver, and the Capri, I suppose, was his toy, because Mum had a car as well. So I think the Capri was the sweet spot. That was his little one. He'd just sit out there and maybe tune the carbs or something on Sunday.
Was he a Ford man?
Yeah, I think he comes from West London, and he lived in Staines, Ali G Land, and the big dealership there, which is still there to this day, is Crimble of Staines, which is a Ford dealership. Yeah. And Dad was quite wealthy by mistake as a young age. So he comes from a poor family, one of 11.
Wow.
So big family. The age gap, Dad, when he was 18, the twins were newborn babies. So he tells me stories about like them Nan having them in chest of drawers in the bedroom. At the end of the bed, you have 2 drawers for the twins. One goes in the top drawer, one's in the bottom drawer.
Jesus.
That's where they slept because every other room was preoccupied with 2 to 3 kids.
Presumably drawers are left open, aren't they? When it's,
Oh, I don't know actually. Probably if they get a bit noisy, you just go and push them shut.
Kind of socks for pillars.
Yeah. And Dad talks about that, and he talks about when he was. So he worked from a young age, 14, 15, on Greenhams, on like quarry sites,
Okay.
and mechanically fixing diggers and tractors and stuff like that, and Land Rovers.
Yeah.
And he used to drive a Land Rover around when he was a teenager, which is where his love of those come from.
Yeah.
And he had an industrial accident and some shrapnel and stuff from a machine, no eye protection, flew into his eye and it severed his eye. And they paid him out a sort of substantial amount of money when he was 18, which probably wasn't a wise thing in 1968 or whatever, because he could have bought his mum and dad's house for £1,504. That's how much a house was, and that's a 4-bedroom house in West London.
Yeah.
Instead, he bought a 3-year-old Zodiac from Crimble of Staines, a record player for £50.
Wow.
And the car was £400 from a Ford main agent, and then just spent all the rest on teddy boy outfit, suits and cars. And there's a picture outside his house when this is the days where if you looked outside a street, there's probably during the day there'd be no cars because the
Everyone's
dads
at
had
work,
cars and they were at work. Mums didn't drive. Outside Dad's house is 6 cars, a bit like mine now, and they're all his. They're all his.
Wow.
He had a rock and roll Bedford van, a mini Clubman estate, which he then gave that to his sister. He had a Cresta, he had a Zodiac, and he had a Zephyr. Honestly, it was just mad. And a beach buggy, which is how he met my mum. He built a beach buggy, which is how he met my mum. Which is really random because she wanted a ride in his beach buggy. So obviously he did give her a ride in the beach buggy, and ta-da! That's how me and my sister come about. So that must be the VW connection.
Yeah. It's been there since birth.
Yeah, literally.
So presumably, obviously, seeing all these cars and your dad's getting hands on all the time with them, that obviously got you.
Yeah, I think so, because I think Dad's always. So we've always had a garage at the bottom of the garden. And the Capri used to be in there when I was really young. So I remember that. And then I remember a Land Rover coming when I was probably like 8 or 9. So much more memorable age then. And I remember going down the garden, literally down at the bottom of the garden with a Poddington peas, and working on this Land Rover underneath like a shed type cover. I remember they took the garage down because it had asbestos roof. And they turned up in all biohazard suits and stuff and took it away. Like it reminded me of E.T. the movie, you know, when they come in the ambulance. It was literally like
Quite
that.
advanced about it, really, isn't it? I thought it was just
really.
sort of just take it away.
No, it was all
breathe
proper.
it all in.
Just a woodbine.
Yeah, just smoke it. And I remember that. So I remember Dad working on cars down the bottom of the garden, and I would always go down there as a kid, similar to like Reggie comes out here now to watch me. And it was all watching them, wasn't it? It was all, you know, I was a Lego child, so you'd get ideas, wouldn't you, and then try and build it in Lego and recreate it. And Dad collected the little cars as well, like these. So he got me into those, painting them up, putting wheels on them and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, early seeds were sown, definitely. And like I said, that's where the Land Rover love come from as well.
So what was your mum driving?
So Mum's earliest car I can remember of Mum's would have been a Mark III Escort.
Okay.
So that would have
Bit
been
later,
quite
yeah,
new, yeah. So Dad would have. I got a feeling they bought that like almost new because I think Ford came out with like that options thing, which was like the PCP that we have today. Because again, I remember going to the showrooms at midnight to get the new reg, because that's how you got the reg. And I don't remember collecting the Escort, and the Escort was an A reg, so that would have been Mark III. But I do remember the Orion, which was a D reg. So that's 87, so I'd have been 7 then. And I remember going to the showroom, specifically in our pyjamas, and it was midnight. Yeah, because It was.
I never knew people did that.
I can't remember if the date was like August or whatever.
It was 1st September, wasn't it? New registration.
And it was a letter, and of course it was a massive thing in those days if you had a new letter. And I think it might have been our first new car. I think maybe the Escort wasn't new, but this one was our first new one.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got this Orion. We went to the showroom and as kids, and yeah, it was a brand new car, and it was down your street, and no one else had a D-Reg, and you're like, yeah.
People must have been opening their curtains thinking, how's that thing got there already?
Yeah. I think that's what, but I do remember as well the next day, I can distinctly remember going to Ascot or Windsor Great Park, something like that.
Okay.
It was a sunny day, so yeah, September would make sense. And looking on the roads and flashing and beeping if there was another D-Reg.
Yeah.
Like, woo, we got one too.
Yeah.
Ours was a Ford, and round there were Jaguars and Mercedes and stuff like that. But obviously, it was a council estate, so to have a new car was quite a big thing. And you know, now it makes sense. It would have only been because of finance. Otherwise, I guess we wouldn't have got it. I don't know what they cost then, 6,000-7,000 or something.
Yeah,
For
maybe.
a new car, yeah.
Everyone was driving around in Mark III Escorts, though, weren't they, back then?
Yeah. The Mark III was an A. I'm sure it was an A. Or it might have been older with the number at the end, but I do remember, and it was blue, and the Orion was blue as well.
Okay.
So I do remember those. But yeah, that was Mum's first one I can remember. But the Escort and then the Orion.
Seatbelts in the back?
The Capri didn't have seat, but I don't ever recall putting seatbelts.
No, I doubt it.
We didn't need him, he just sort of squished
Yeah.
in.
I think the Orion might have done, but I don't recall putting them on.
Yeah, it's optional, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you did in those days, did we? Land Rover never had no belts. Dad actually installed a lap belt because they don't have any belts.
No belts in the front either?
No, none in the front, none in the back, nothing. And Dad actually put ones in because he used to drive it with no doors. So you got no roof, so like a Willys Jeep.
Yeah.
The windscreen flat on there's no door on the side, there's nothing on the back, and these are 7-seaters legally, by the way. And you can be 3 up in the front, 4 of you in the back, and just...
And you fall out at any corner.
Any corner fall out. I've fallen out the back of Dad's Land Rover before, where you pulled away too quick and jerked. The back tailgate was down and I fell out the back. And that's normal. That's normal Land Rover life.
It's a quick body check when you get
Yeah,
back.
exactly. Yeah. Soldiers didn't
Two
care.
down,
They were tough. People were tougher in those days. They never took offence. No one got offended ever, and no one died.
Bungee straps around your ankles.
Yeah.
That'll do. Keep them in.
So I do remember him fitting like a big green army type clip belt in the front, like a lap belt, like an aeroplane almost.
Yeah.
2 of them in the front. He didn't do it for anybody else, but just for him, because when you went round corners, you did have to sort of stretch yourself out a little bit to make sure you didn't roll out the side.
I suppose if you haven't got the steering wheel on the passenger side, you've literally got
nothing to hold on to. Yeah, I guess he had that, but you got nothing.
I'm guessing he had the doors. He just took them off the front.
Yeah, he used to do it in the summer. It was just a Land Rover thing. It's a serious
Show
one
off.
thing. It's let's drive around with as little on as possible and get the most MPG. It's that army look, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was into military.
Did he do the old camo clothes and all to match?
Yeah, he used to wear quite a lot of... he used to shop in those like the military shops.
Yeah,
that sell
anything you like in green.
Yeah. And he would walk around with a bag with a water bottle. Like my dad.
Oh, yeah.
He had the bag where we always used to say if there was a world war or whatever, just find my dad. Because in his bag you can survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally had... He used to, really randomly, but after his passing, we obviously went through his bag and you wouldn't believe what we found. There was like army military torches, extra batteries for this, there was like sewing kits, there was literally everything to survive a Holocaust. But what was the most random thing, there was a knife in there, quite big, which I was like, hello Dad, that's a bit scary. But there was a fucking ninja star in there.
Ooh, wow.
An actual ninja star. I mean, when are you ever going to need a ninja star in your life? But,
that's some proper Boy Scout.
Yeah.
again, I guess you're in the middle of the woods. You need to hunt, don't you? There's a rabbit, and you fire this ninja star across the field and catch a rabbit. Or whatever.
Had he got any military background at all? Like,
No, I think it was all in his head.
he'd watched a couple of films.
Yeah,
He was like, I'm on.
Both granddads had been in the army. His dad had been in a horrible part of the army. He'd worked in the mortuary.
Oh, Christ.
So yeah, matching bits up and stuff. So obviously that not such a nice side of the army. And then got promoted to the kitchen side of things, straight out the one side of meat into another.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he'd seen some action, and again, Grandad was very much into heavy haulage. So he used to drive really big things like Antars. Do you know what an Antar is? So an Antar's a tank transporter.
Oh, wow.
It's something that can tow like, I don't know, 50 ton, maybe more, maybe even 100 ton, and it would take massive tanks on the back. And have a top speed of about 20 miles an hour. And Dad would go with him sometimes in these trucks, and his job would be to put the chocks out under the wheels and stuff to stop it rolling back, particularly on hill climbs, because up a hill it was, sure Dad said it was like 6-7 miles per hour or something up a hill.
Wow.
And he remembers like going up Box Hill, Leaf Hill in Surrey, and it was struggling, and they had a steamroller on the back, a full-blown steamroller, and Grandad unloaded the steamroller, drove it up and pulled the truck up the hill with it, because that was easy. So he took the steamroller, pulled that, probably I would imagine at a very slow pace, but yeah, he said it took them all day to get up this hill. You know, they just kind of lost it at the bottom, lost the gearing or whatever, and then had to work all day to get this thing up a hill by unloading the goods and using the goods to tow it up. So, yeah, you know, and there was some military sort of action then, I suppose, in like the vehicles that they were driving, and that's probably where Dad got that from, I reckon. And then the Land Rover is the most sensible military vehicle out of all of them, and actually you can own one and drive one.
Yeah.
Although you can do it with a tank. But.
Did he go through a few Land Rovers then?
His favourite was the Series 1. That was his baby. So the first one I recall him buying was a Series 1 when I was about 8 or 9. That was the one he drove around the block with no doors on it. And then he got some other ones, and one of the ones he had the longest was like a 110 diesel one, and it looked like the one off Emmerdale Farm. I think it was. You know, in Emmerdale Farm, you used to have this green and cream Land Rover long wheelbase come into shot in the beginning of the music.
Okay.
And I'm sure it was that actual vehicle, and he bought it from up in Yorkshire from like a Land Rover dealer up there, and he kept that he drove that daily right into well into his 50s, and it had no power steering, and I remember being like, you know, 30 and struggling to steer it, and this guy's like 50 odd, and he was driving it daily. It had the windows, you had to slide them.
Yeah.
You had like little catch, and then you slid them along little perspex or glass windows. The door's always open when you're driving along as well. So you just drive along, you go around the corner. That one did have a seatbelt, and then the door would just open on a roundabout or something like that.
Just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. I guess it was just to remind you of what they're like with no doors. And and getting it started sometimes in the winter, it'd be out there with a can of like Easy Start for like 20 minutes. And then it'd fill the entire neighbourhood with smoke. But that was alright, she was running.
I've never been in one, have you?
I've driven one actually. I drove one at Goodwood members meeting last year. They had kind of a sort of a little assault course, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, Series 1 or Series 2.
They use them over there daily.
Yeah. And you could drive around. You had to go up this sort of ramp and down the other side, which is all a bit daunting. And then sort of do a slalom. And was there a seesaw? I can't remember. But yeah, that's the first time I've driven one. But they're very kind of agricultural.
It seems to be a bit of a Marmite car from what I hear from people. Anyway.
I think it's probably the closest car to a tractor. It's just they're just nuts and bolts. There is nothing to them. I mean, it is literally just like if a kid drawed a chassis, that's a chassis.
Yeah.
There's a steering wheel. There's a go pedal and a maybe stop pedal. And that's it. And away you go. And that's what it feels like to drive. It just feels like you've made it in your shed.
It's kind of Meccano, isn't it? Basically, big Meccano.
Big Meccano, and I think that's what the love and following is about, because those Lego Meccano kids just love that simplicity of wheel, chassis, steering wheel, That bit, right? Okay. What about some doors? We could put a couple of them on maybe if you need them.
Buy them next week with your pocket money.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's
What about a windscreen? You didn't.
no intervention required from the dealer either. You
No.
can sort of do it in your own garage.
Yeah, DIY, like catering without the technology. Just literally with
A
nothing.
bit more ground clearance.
Yeah. But yeah, they are a strange thing to drive. They're very hard to drive. I remember Dad teaching me to drive his from a very young age, and yeah, they're not easy. And to act, and you know, when my dad passed away, we took him on a modern Land Rover. He went in the back of a modern Defender converted to a hearse, and I followed him in a '62 Series 1.
Oh, nice.
And it was awful. You know, it was the
Nice
brakes.
to look at.
Yeah, you're very pretty, but the braking and everything, it was so difficult. You know, so like you've got these modern cars in front of you braking. You're all trying to keep in convoy. And it was actually really hard work. And I had full 7 passengers as well. Again, no seat belts, nobody, because you didn't, you know, that's how they come, isn't it? And yeah, it was a good send off, but God, it was nerve wracking to get it. I think I did 50 miles in it, 40 miles in it, because I did a little pre-run out just to warm her up before he arrived, and then from there to the place, you know, the crematorium was sort of 6 miles, 5-6 miles, and then afterwards the wake was miles away because it was where he used to work, so we had to go up couldn't go up the motorway because they only do like 50 miles an hour and it's just too tricky. So I took all the B roads all the way there and ended up getting up to about 50 mile an hour on B roads, and it was like, but the faster you went, the better it drove.
Yeah.
And it broke better as well when you went faster. But through towns and that, it was ridiculous. But when you got up on a bypass, other than the fact it was skipping around and everyone was holding on for dear life, it actually felt all right. It was like, oh, it's going well now. So, yeah, I just found the faster it went, the better it went.
So was the Land Rover kind of a Capri replacement?
Yeah, I don't really know why I guess the Capri was probably his last pinch at the sporty car, because the Zodiac was a 3 litre and he put bigger wheels on it and he'd done all these mods to it. So I guess the Capri was that last bit of like him being like, you know, race teddy boy, being a bit cool, you know, gel back hair, and then he looked in the mirror, he was bald and thought, right, might as well get a Land Rover now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think after the Capri, I just remember the Land Rovers coming. So then every car after that was Mum's car. It was their, you know, family car, but it was Mum's car. Mum drove them.
Did you have any involvement, Danny, in picking the car or the car or anything like that?
No, nothing at all. You could say what you like. Mum would have took her. That would have been all on Mum. I don't think my dad would have had any involvement.
Oh, really?
He might have signed the paper. I don't think he would have had any involvement. No, other than the fact that I think, you know, like in those days, people bought British. So Dad would be very much like, oh, you know, you've got to have a British car. And her granddad, obviously ex-Navy, would have been Rovers, Fords, got to be British. So, yeah, Mum might have had dreams of looking in a BMW showroom, but and I think there was a big gap in the prices in them days from those sort of cars as well. I think, you know, a Ford was probably 3,000 or 4,000 new, and a BMW was probably 12,000 or something.
Yeah.
And if you're not borrowing the money, that's a massive amount of money to find. You know, in those days, cost of living was sort of fairly reasonable, not like now.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, it's 50 quid more a month and you can have a designer brand. In those days, it would have been, no, it's double the price. Have you got another $4,000, miss? No. So, no, yeah, we got no input in it. Just happy to be in the back of them on the way to Devon.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that you sort of stick to in terms of, I'm going to buy British still now. Not just cars, but anything in general. Anything I can think of is Maldon Salt.
I sometimes...
Which is still very reasonable.
No, I guess the only time I feel like patriotic like that is just buying meat from the butcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you buy local, don't you? You buy your local... Whether it's local produce or not, I don't know if it is these days. I'd like to hope it is. You'd like to think if I'm going to the butcher in Rose Green that meat hasn't come from further than
30 miles,
40 miles. So I'm directly funding the butcher, which is directly funding the farmer. And I'm cutting out Tesco's and the big corporates. So I feel like a lot of people around here do that, look after your community and stuff. But I think if you did buy a packet and it said made in Poland, I don't think you'd care.
No.
You know, if it tastes good and it's priced well, I don't think you're not really that bothered these days, are you?
No.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what else you'd kind of go for like that. I suppose you've got sort of Savile Row type suits or whatever.
Yeah,
People
I
who
think
want
if you if you're in,
a tailored.
if you're in
I
that
haven't been
sort of
for a while.
realm, I think if you're a billionaire, millionaire, and you're in that sort of realms, then you know you're shopping in Harrods. You're probably buying more into that patriotism. I know a lot of foreigners do, don't they? A lot of like Russians and Chinese. They buy properties in England because they want to live near the Queen or live near Windsor Castle or whatever. And they will probably walk into the shops and they're probably like, I'll only buy British mustard, British jam. Oh, where's this made? Oh no, I can't possibly have that. But they can afford to have the choice.
Yeah. Everyone else, just take what you get given.
75p, that'll do. Don't know where it was made, don't know who made it, don't care.
So what came after the Orion?
So after the Orion, Mum changed. She went up market then. She went Rover.
Oh,
So
nice.
she followed Granddad's suit. And the first one I remember is one you never see now. It's like a 216, but it's the shape you don't see. It's really ugly. It had a really flat squash back end and a bit of a ball nose to the front of it. And this was the one before the wedgy Japanese Honda Civic looking one.
Yeah.
Or the one that shared the Honda
Pointy
platform.
one.
Yeah, before the pointy one. This one was the real ugly one.
Basically drawn with a set square, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Set square there. Yeah, turn it round, other way. Yeah.
And you don't see them, so I don't think the classic car world are even into them. I would imagine.
Desired taste.
I would imagine that. I guess a bit like a Austin Princess. If you want one, you want one. There's someone out there who's got one, and it's they love it. But yeah, the beige velour, the wood. All this is when wood came about. Then this was a little bit fancy, We'd gone up market, definitely for a council estate.
I remember going to school with a kid actually, and I think both his parents had one of them, and his mum was kind of into pigs, and our parcel shelf was just full of cuddly pigs, like teddies and stuff.
Yeah, people used to do that. I do remember a neighbour's Cortina, the whole back parcel shelf being full of like cuddly teddies, and then there was another one who had a Cortina as well. And his was speakers. They actually had like
shelf speakers.
Yeah, but like 5, and they're like house speakers, like literally off your record player.
Yeah.
Just wired into your car. But yeah, no, Mum didn't cover it in teddies, but yeah, it definitely was a posher car. We were a little bit upmarket then when we went Rover.
I don't know the first time, but I remember kind of going in cars and discovering they got a central armrest in the back. That was like, you've made it.
Yeah, I think the Rover had that, the white, I do remember that. But just things like electric windows, I mean, that was like, wow, hey, look at me. You could just up and down the windows on your own instead of all that. I mean, all the Fords before, all the cars before, Capri, I don't think has opening rear windows.
No, probably not.
So all the
keep
other
the smoking.
Keep the smoking. Mum used to smoke in her
Lucky to
car
have
as well.
glass.
This is why my lungs are like this now, Mum. Cheers. 40 B&H a day.
I've got embassy in me.
Oh,
That's my passive of choice.
Yeah,
choice.
Yeah, but we're a B&H family. Although Dad didn't smoke, but Mum certainly get for a few packets a day. But they're only probably a quid then, weren't they?
Yeah.
So
My dad used to just chuck us in the back with a Nicorette.
yeah, put a patch on, it'll be fine.
He called it training.
Shots of the gun back there.
Don't forget, in those days, everywhere you went was smoking in shops, in certainly social clubs. My Dad was a big social club guy, so we'd go to social clubs every weekend in the Orion or the Rover, and the old boys with the pipes, the roll-up guys, and then just the Sharons with the fags hanging out.
Massive ash on the end.
Yeah. So just waiting to fall off, wasn't it? And
Long one.
little
Super
taps
King's
like that.
menthol, wasn't it?
Yeah. The posh ladies with that little extension part, and they've got gloves on while they're doing it at the bar.
Audrey Hepburn type
Yeah,
thing.
So I guess in those days, smoking in the car with the kids was totally fine. Those cigarette lighters were purpose. They were there. They were used.
Ashtray as well, or out the window.
They would have been ashtray cars. I think my mum was a fag out the window lady.
Classic.
Yeah, so I think
Considerate.
Flick it on everybody else. Let's not flick it on the kids. I don't recall her building their ashtrays up until they were overflowing.
My dad was a keen ash builder.
Keen ash builder. Get it right up there before I hoover it out. I have seen that in cars, even in modern times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Where it becomes then, the ashtray becomes the handbrake area, becomes the gear lever area.
Sort of like the base of a barbecue.
Basically, like you just had a barbecue in the car.
Like volcanoes onto the carpet.
Yeah, all pouring out down the side of the seats.
Occasionally I remember seeing my dad sort of patting his slats.
Because all the hot bits falling down.
Fantastic. Any music you remember, kind of from cars?
Yeah, Mum had one cassette, and it was just the cassette that was in the car, and it was Simply Red Stars. So I remember that from at least the Orion, so that late 80s, which I think is when that album came out, around 87, 88.
Okay.
And that was the cassette of choice. She had other cassettes, but if it was a long journey, it was Simply Red Stars all the way to Devon, both sides. Flip it out, nice. and again. You probably do like 27 rotations of both sides. So I know all the words to those. Dad had an 8-track in one of his Land Rovers. Remember an old 8-track things? He said he kept it from his Zodiac days. He had it in his Zodiac in his Bedford rock and roll van. Yeah. And then he put it in one of his Land Rovers. And literally household speakers in the back, wired up. And it was like just rock and roll, like, you know, Elvis or whatever. But yeah, most of the time he didn't have any audio in his cars because you wouldn't have been able to hear it with all the rattles and shakes and
shake, rattle and roll.
The sheer fear of holding on and not falling out the side because he's got no doors on it. So yeah, the mum's cars always had Simply Red, and then I think some other stuff came later. But you know, wirelesses weren't so good in those days, were they? The radios, they were a bit in and out, crackly. So a cassette was all you needed.
Trusty cassette.
Trusty cassette.
Remember the old cassette holders, like sprung-loaded things?
Yeah. The German cars had them a lot. I think in those days it was the glove box. They were just all in the glove box, weren't they? All in there, and them little plastic cases they used to be in.
Didn't the later cassette players, you didn't have to turn the tape over? Couldn't it just be
auto reverse?
That would have been like game changer. Because I do remember, I'm sure the Orion was, I think the Rover did that, but I'm sure the Orion was push it, eject, spin it, physically turn it back in.
Sometimes you press two buttons, the fast forward rewind together, and that did the eject.
Yeah, I think it was actually. And then they come out, and then you put it back in.
Hopefully, like not with a trail of tape.
Yeah, that would happen quite often with your home ones, wouldn't it? But yeah, no, I do remember the Rover. That was next gen, so that was like auto flip. That just did it all on its own. You didn't need to press them. We don't need to eject.
I can see why they went for the Rover.
Yeah, well, that had electric windows then. Then you got wood veneer. You know, we're starting to get a little bit swanky here, aren't we? I don't know if it had air conditioning or anything like that. I don't ever recall.
Sunroof, maybe?
It did have a sunroof, yeah. I think the Orion had a sunroof as well. I think they both did. But I remember the Orion, like I say, the Orion was just like wow, because it was so like new, and we had a new car. Felt like we were a new family.
Did the Capri go for the Orion?
I don't know why the Capri went. I never really asked Dad. I think the Capri went just because it was obviously that would have been a much older car, and I guess you know, and Dad did tinker around with that and like you know, not say modify it, but he would have put the stripes on the back windows and the fairy dice, and he would have the bonnet up on a Sunday and be down doing something to the carburetors and I don't know, putting an air filter on it like they were chrome, like the round chrome ones that go on top. And then revving it, giving it all cherry bomb exhaust and all that. So, yeah, Dad did mess around with that. So I guess with having, not four of us, but if you had to have other kids come with you, like friends or cousins, that journey to Devon with the four in the back, I guess Mum convinced him that it's got to go, love, isn't it? 2 doors, you can't open the rear windows. It's got to go. We need something more family.
7-seater Orion.
Yeah, 7-seater Orion. Yeah, I do remember the Orion being really big, but they're not, are they? So I guess it was just very big in the back for us because we had our own seats, you know, and you could have 3.
They're pretty long. The boots are pretty big.
Yeah, I do remember it being a big car. It felt like a big car. And I guess coming from the Capri into that, although there was the Escort in between, it did feel longer and bigger. So yeah, I guess that Dad's Capri was just letting go of his childhood sporty young man, muscles, bald, fat, by a Land Rover. Get greasy, put oil down my face.
Was the Rover brand new as well?
I think so. I think once they'd got into that sort of, I guess, car finance world where you change the car every 2 or 3 years. Although they changed from Ford to Rover, because then after the Rover was another Rover.
Yeah.
She did return to Ford, I think, at one point with a Fiesta. But after that point, then you're on finance, aren't you? So you're paying your monthly.
Yeah.
You go in and you come out with another new one. So I think she got used to that, and you don't want to drop that then, do you? You keep your regs, because it used to be a number, a letter.
Yeah.
You can't go backwards, can you? Whereas now people don't care.
Yeah.
We've all
Unless you
lost.
go up the scale.
Yeah, up the scale, yeah. Oh, we were A, now we're D, we're F, we're G. You know, can't possibly go back to a D. Whereas I don't think people care as much now, because it's all lost in translation now. 2 a year and 72. So I couldn't. What are we? 74 now or 24?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, 74 later in the year. So that's what I mean. We wouldn't even know.
It's confusing, isn't it?
And seeing a new car down the road now is just nothing, is it? It's a new car, like you said. Got a new phone, got a new car, bought a pair of trainers.
Yeah.
Oh, what trainers did you get?
Yeah, more interesting then, yeah.
No one's. It's just a new car, isn't it? It's just a means to an end. That sort of. I think cars are quite important in those days. And just a
Well, yeah, I guess after your house, that was kind of a real sort of
Yeah.
purchase, and it's, I guess, for some people it is still a very considered purchase, but for others it is just a case of like buying a washing machine.
Yeah,
Right, I just need
yeah.
the next one.
Yeah.
Go and get a Kia or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Just kind of
The
another
washing
appliance.
machine's packed up this weekend and the lights are on the car again. Oh, I've got to go car shopping next week and get a bloody car. It's like, oh, I've got to go and get a new washing machine.
Yeah.
It is exactly like that, isn't it? So then they walk into a showroom, the husband's like rolling his eyes. The wife don't even want to be there either, but she needs to know what colour it is, and that's about it, isn't it? And they just want to be in and out, don't they? They just want to, so where do we
Just
sign?
give you anything,
How much have I got to send you? And what is the monthlies? And and then she says, oh, should I have them wheels or them wheels? He's like, I don't care, dear. I don't care. Just choose a set of wheels. Them ones. Right, it's done. That's it, lovely.
So no desire for a Land Rover?
Land Rover appeals to me. Dad had a love for tractors as well, and I've got a thing about tractors. So, but I'd buy a Porsche tractor, which wouldn't have been Dad's choice, because of my love of Porsches and tractors. I can combine both loves into one. Land Rovers do appeal to me. I always look at a Land Rover, modern and old. There's something about them. Obviously, because I've got the T-shirt Land Rover, which was actually Dad's T-shirt. So yeah, there is a real. That's the only connection. My son's obsessed with Land Rovers as well. Reggie, it's one of his favourite cars. So yeah, don't even like Porsches now. He's talking about Supras and Land Rovers. Just Supras and Land Rovers, yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I think my dad's dream garage would be a Zodiac Mark III, and that era of car doesn't really appeal to me.
Yeah.
I can see the shape being quite cool as a hot rod.
Yeah.
Maybe to tempted hot rod one. And then all the Fords he had, the Capri and that, no, it doesn't really appeal to me. I look at a Capri, I can appreciate it, and I look at it like my dad's car.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Capri Mark II. Oh, my dad had one of them, and I remember the memories of being in them, and same with an Orion, but absolute zero appeal to want to own one, Give me a Mark II Golf GTI any day, or an E36 BMW.
But I reckon the majority of Capri owners must be from that. My dad had one of those.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a majority, when you see those sort of guys at classic car shows, they are of that age, they're of that era. And I think we find, same with the toys, everything goes around, doesn't it, in like patterns. And I think so I'm now driving the cars that I desired to drive when I was a young man. So I'm, a lot of my Porsches are 97, 98, 99. That's when I passed my test. So they were brand new cars on the road.
Yeah.
They were on Top Gear. They were in the magazines. Evo, car of the month, the 996, 911. Wow. It's aspirational, isn't it? Looking out the window at Dad's old Capri, nah. I want that one. So, you know, Jeremy's saying it's great. That's the car I want. So yeah, I guess what we've done is it kind of full circle. We've gone to the point of getting the cars we couldn't afford or we couldn't have, rather than the cars we could. And not being funny, Capri's bloody worth more than a 911 now anyway. You know, the right one could probably cost you that sort of money, especially if it was like a Turbo Technics or something special. So yeah, I think I just want the cars that I wanted when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say no to a Land Rover. Just ain't got any room.
I suppose the thing with a tractor though is like it becomes a whole new sort of storage issue, isn't it?
Yeah, and although you can drive them on the road and they're road legal, I think a Land Rover is probably the closest thing to a tractor that would be a bit easier to store, because you can park it outside and it would get wet, it don't mind. Whereas I think if you put a tractor outside, it would rust away. Or
you can probably only carry one person, like you.
Yeah.
It's not like you can take the lad out for a ride, can you, on the
Just get
tractor?
a trailer.
Yeah.
Or a bucket on the front.
hay barrels and that on the back, and just have the entire family on it, sort of thing. Yeah, no, I think if you're going to own a tractor, you've got to live a bit in the sticks, and you've got to live down a little country lane in a meadow, the farmhouse at the back, and you can have as many tractors as you like. So circumstances sometimes restrict what you can and can't have. But yeah, I could see a Land Rover popping into my life, but I'd probably buy like I don't know, like 2005, 6 or something Defender, like V8.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, wouldn't
Something
it?
slightly more
Big chunky tyres on it and that.
more refined, maybe power steering, heating.
Yeah.
Is that what Vera's got? Have you watched Vera at all?
No.
Well, it's my wife's fault. Northern Detective. I think it's like a Sunday programme on ITV.
Oh, that sounds like the sort of thing my dad and mum and dad would have watched if they're still around today.
She's got one of the big Land Rovers, an old one.
Oh right, yeah, and drives it.
She followed in Mawson Frost's footsteps, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there is a following for them, and they are making a resurgence. There's that young girl that over in the Rover that drove my Porsche. She's, you know, she's an interesting case because she comes from no mechanical background, no car interesting background, and she's quite posh, and she's just obsessed with Land Rovers, and not modern like the latest. A 73 plate gangster wagon. She drives a 1990-91 car, which is exactly like the sort of thing my dad would have daily driven 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Big old 2.25 petrol engine, thirsty as hell in today's world. I think she stops at a petrol station every 40 miles. No power steering, no central locking, no electric windows, and she drives it daily to university, and she drives all over the country. She's even been to Europe on road trips in them, and her dad's never owned one. She doesn't come from a background of Land Rovers. Has just got this sort of tomboyness in her that loves the simplicity of that raw metal.
She work on it herself as well.
Yeah,
cool.
She's a blogger. I don't know if she does YouTube. She does Instagram and TikTok. She's got a massive following, massive. You know, most of her reels now pulling in minimum 100, 150k views. So there is a following for her and what she does as well. So yeah, Land Rovers have got a massive following still. So yeah, I might get one.
One of the few vehicles, aren't they, that kind of attract people of all ages when you think about it.
Classless.
Yeah, they are, because Reggie likes them and he's 9. And yet a 90-year-old man would like them because maybe he drove one in the army during the war or whatever. And obviously, you know, there was the whole military background to them.
But then the Royals drove them, like kind of people with millions of pounds have driven them.
Yeah, I mean, all the new ones now are very sort of about Chelsea tractory now, aren't they? I mean, people buy these modern ones now not for their off-road or towing capability. They buy them because they're fashionable to drive around a high street in a pimped out black one with all the luggage boxes. Have you seen all the luggage boxes on the side and on the roof, which cost thousands extra, but they look cool, man, because they're a bit rugged. And then they get out and they got Louis Vuitton shoes on and snakeskin trousers or something. And it's like, really?
Not even seen a puddle.
No, there's not. No, they're all detailed and PPF'd. And ceramic coated underneath. And
don't even know what a little is, do they?
No.
You want an old one that smells of manure, got hay all over it.
Yeah, so I think if you go to a Land Rover type meeting, I think you'll meet every type of person from every type of background, and the age group would be, it's like Volkswagen. It's a massive scene, massive, as big as that, I'd say, and that's very similar, isn't it? The older generations are like air-cooled guys, and then the younger generations are into the water-cooled world. Very similar as the Porsches. Very much the same.
Cool. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
You're welcome.
It's been good fun. It took us 2 goes.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. It was going to be third time lucky, but we've done it in 2.
Ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I did think we could go third time lucky.
Yeah. No, it's been good fun. And yeah, thank you very much for having us. And
You're
a
welcome.
debut outing for the machine,
Indeed.
which
Yeah.
has performed, I would
Not
say
bad,
faultlessly.
yeah.
It's performed.
It's performed, yeah.
We'll see how it all comes out and how many chop and changes there are in there.
God knows.
Thank you for listening to my dad's car. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please support us. Buy us a coffee and subscribe. And tell all your friends.